news you need. Live.
Well, hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to another episode of the Locker Room. It's been a busy old season, Robbie. We're nearly at the end of the season. I can't believe it. And tomorrow it's the first game of the split. Basically, it's like I don't know about you, but it reminds me of like two mini leagues. Because we all know who's won the league. But European football still up for grabs, and also at the bottom of the league, it's basically like a free fall, trying to maybe like stay up in the Premiership. So, yeah, it's been a busy show, busy season as always. Busy last weekend as well, because you presented the show on Sunday, Robbie, with Ethan as well. So we now know the Scottish Cup final is Aberdeen against Celtic, Robbie.
Look, it was two good shows early weekend. Obviously two quality games as well. I thought both cup semis were actually really entertaining to watch. Obviously Hearts, there was a lot of talking points about the referees in that game. Celtic being as dominant as ever against St Johnstone. But you're right, this is 5 big games for different reasons. No, the league title, but I think we can all safely say the league's more than done. Maybe not mathematically, but I think it will be after this weekend. But there's European battles, relegation, as you said. I think there's still a chance any of the bottom 6 can go down. So it's going to be an interesting last sort of 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep, and we'll be here every step of the way as well. I think there's a midweek card as well, thrown into the mix as well. So we'll be here. I think it maybe a Wednesday night or something to cover the games. We'll let you know about that as well. But before we go on, I've got to say thanks to everybody who watched the show on Tuesday night. It was about John Attenborough. He wrote a book about his his challenges trying to get into football grounds in Scotland. And I don't know if you're going along, because that's probably about on Thursday. There's he's having a book launch at Hampden Park at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a free event. All you have to do is email the Hampden Museum as well. So I'm going along to it. So it'll be nice to meet John in person.
I might try and get along as well. Be the first time I see you in person as well, so I try and get along. Should be good.
Yeah, no, I'll be nice to see you. I'll be nice to see Alistair as well, because believe it or not, I've never met Alistair before either. So there we go. Or maybe as Rory said off air, the big man, because I didn't realise Alistair was that tall. Obviously he left because high heels that day when they met you, Robbie. So that was nice. So let's go on to talk about football. So if you can make it along on Thursday, 10 o'clock, register at the Hampden Museum as well. So big weekend. Obviously, we'll speak about the St Mirren Rangers game in a minute. But Dundee United against Celtic, 12:30 kickoff at Talladice live on Sky. And Robbie, do you think Celtic will get over the line tomorrow?
Yeah, I think so. And that's not me just saying that because they're playing Jim Goodwin's Dundee United team. I just think watching Celtic against St Johnstone, they were very good, very dominant. And I don't expect Rodgers to change the team just yet. I think he's going to stick with the same team that started against St Johnstone. Well, I've not listened to his presser, so I don't know if there's any injuries at Celtic if maybe go creep my room, but I expect him to stick with basically the same lineup. But like Dundee United will make it hard. We know what Jim Goodwin's like. He plays very solid defensively. He's a really good counter-attacking team. So it's going to be a difficult game for Celtic, but I'd expect them to get the job done.
Yeah, no. No injury worries for Celtic tomorrow. Surprise. The only injury is Schmeichel, and I think Brendan Rodgers is keeping that very quiet, because I think if Celtic didn't make the Scottish Cup final this season, I don't think you would see him until next season. But because Celtic's got Celtic's in the final against Aberdeen, he might have an outside chance of playing on that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll want Schmeichel. Since Allo's not a bad keeper, on anything that St Johnstone did fling it and bar McKenzie's cock disallowed goal, he dealt with quite comfortably. I mean, he made that save on, I think, the 51st minute. For a shot again, I think it was Cook, a really, really good save over the bar. So, it's not a bad number 2 option to have. But, of course, if you were to ask Rodgers, he'd probably prefer having Schmeichel as his number 1 at all times. Just so reliable, gets so much experience. So, I think if he can be available for the cup final, and again, you're right, he is keeping it a secret. He's not really disclosing Schmeichel's, status yet. So it'll be interesting to see if he does get picked for the final.
It's going to be, of course, looking back at the game in December, Celtic Dundee United make it tough for Celtic, and it's hard to believe that we were asking Brendan Rodgers today about this is only his second visit to Tannadice, because obviously he missed it the first. Kind of like quite hard to believe, probably, that Rodgers is just going up to Tannadice for the second time, and it could be a winning. It could be like for a party.
Aye, that is quite mental to believe. I remember, was it finished 0-0 at Tannadice the last time Celtic visited there? I mean, that shows you're going to know, Dundee United, they're a tough team to break down. I do remember a couple of historic Celtic results at Tannadice. Of course, the 9-0 is the obvious one that stands out. But Dundee United will make it tough for you, especially under Goodwin. It's an improved Dundee United team, that team that look like they're going to get Europe. So, it's not going to be easy for Celtic. But after the cup semi-final, I mean, it all relies on this first goal. We say it all the time, if Celtic can get an early goal, the score could be anything that they want. We've seen it with St Johnstone, if the first half was going on for maybe 20 minutes longer, it could have been up to 6 or 7 after the first half. That's how good they were. So Dundee United need to be careful, but it will be a tough game for Celtic.
Yeah, of course, Celtic's won the league there before, Robbie. I don't really remember when Gorgon Scracken was the manager, and it was the night after, a couple of days after Tommy Burns sadly died, and Venegar of Hesselink put the ball in the net for Celtic to win the league, and they dedicated that league to Tommy Burns as well. So it's a very special place for Celtic to go and win the league. But I was actually thinking about there's not many grounds in Scotland Celtic haven't won the league. Obviously, St Mirren would be the obvious one, but I'm thinking about Dundee United, I'm thinking about Kilmarnock, and I'm thinking about Tynecastle as well. So they like winning the league on the road.
Yeah, and if they don't do it against Dundee United, they get the chance to do it against their old rivals Rangers next week.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on results, obviously, in Paisley, but I think Rodgers will want it finished up tomorrow, because although I do agree that I think it is over, the longer this goes on, the more pressure starts to build for Celtic. That's maybe one of the things that Dundee United will try and look to exploit. The fact that there is a bit of pressure that Celtic don't have this finished. I think they will, and I think they will play with foot pressure, but it is something that will start to creep in the back of the Celtic players' minds the longer this goes on, if they don't win it at the weekend. So I think Rodgers will want to get the job done tomorrow.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, let's speak about your old pal for a minute, because I know you like speaking about your old pal Jim Goodwin. I mean, we a couple of weeks ago we were kind of like putting my managers forward for the season, and now I'll be interested to hear what your take on this, because I can't remember if you were on the show that night, Robbie, but I don't think nobody mentioned Jim Goodwin. I'm not guessing this could kind of annoy you, but I think he's had a brilliant season since it's come up, because obviously they finished in the top 6, got a chance at European football as well. Obviously, that's still up in the air. And Dundee United is a good team, and Jim Goodwin is a good manager. Sometimes in football, you actually talk about managers finding the right job, and I think that's the right job for Goodwin. He went to Dundee United and brought them up by when the first time of lasting, and finished in the top 6. I don't think you can argue with that, Robbie.
No, yeah, you definitely can't argue with that. I think Goodwin is the youngest manager in the SPFL as well. I think I'd be right in saying. So he's he's not had much experience. He's had a few big jobs though, and he's done well at majority of his jobs. Obviously, it didn't work out at Aberdeen, but at Dundee United, something's just clicked. And I think on that show, I think the only reason they maybe didn't get too much of a mention, I still give him praise, but it's because you look at a Rodgers who's could win a treble. You look at David Gray, Paul Hibbs at a relegation, then John McGlynn at Falkirk as well, who I think I did pick actually as my pick for manager this season. They're all managers that, no offence to Jim Goodwin, it's an incredible achievement with a team that just get promoted, but all these guys have won trophies or, pulled teams out of relegation. Jim Goodwin, yes, I suppose you could argue it's a bit more of an achievement, the fact that he's been consistently in the top 6 all season, but I just look at someone like a David Gray, what he's done with a Hibs team, that, they weren't flying at all, to get them into the top 6 again, challenging for third. So there is an argument for Goodwin. I think a lot of people would pick him, but there's also arguments for other people, but that takes nothing away from him. Goodwin have been what I remember Goodwin with us. He can scrape at the 1-0 wins. I think if you were to ask Alistair on the St Johnstone game a couple of weeks ago, he'd say they thought St Johnstone deserved something out of the game. I thought they looked more composed, they looked better on the ball, but what Jim Goodwin does is he can sneak out a 1-0 win here and there and get the points on the ball, which is so vital in this season.
Don't forget you can comment on the show on Facebook, YouTube, and X and Instagram as well. And just because I say that, Mr. Duffy, good afternoon to you, Graham. On YouTube, he was saying about Dundee United. He says Dundee United got a really difficult team to play against. They defend well deep, and Sam Dobie has a huge threat going forward. I haven't seen a lot of Dundee United this season, Robbie, but every time I watch sports scene or watch a highlights, his name's always up there in the goal scoring. Do you think that there's a good chance that he'll stay at United next season?
I think every United fan wants him to stay. I mean, it's very good as at Wrexham he's on loan from.
Wrexham, yeah.
They are pretty much, I think they're looking for promotion. So I think it depends whether maybe Wrexham see him fitting into the Championship down in England. I don't know how he'll get on at that level, but Dundee United will hope that they can bring him back down. I mean, on Graham's point, Dundee United's last 3 matches have finished with 3 wins. 3 1-0 wins. For Dundee United, so his point's spot on. They can sit in defensively, they can counter attack, they can use Sam Dalby, who he did have a bit of a sticky patch right in the middle of the season, but he's sort of broken through that and started scoring goals again right at the right time. So I think Dundee United, they have a good player in the horns, but they have a good team as well. That's the one thing with Goodwin, he's built a really, really good foundation.
The thing is, when you watch the games on at Paradise, doesn't matter if it's Dundee United, Celtic, Rangers, St Mirren, or even Dundee, it's always a brilliant atmosphere, and I think it'll be a brilliant atmosphere tomorrow for our Celtic fans.
Yeah, I mean, I got to go to the last game at Tannadice with Dundee United and St Mirren. They beat us 2-0, very late goals. But the day they give you a lot of atmosphere. I remember we took a good support, but the home support there's fantastic as well. And it really does drive them on. I mean, in that game, it was very close. It was 50-50, and neither team really dominating one another. And then Dundee United find a breakthrough. That's what the fans can do for you. It's good at Dundee United. I mean, we've seen it before when they were in Europe. We know how big the fan base can be, the fans that they can get over there. So, Dundee United, they deserve to be in the top 6. They deserve to be fighting for European football, because this season, the players, the manager, and the fans, they've all played their part.
I was thinking about the atmosphere, Robbie, but I don't know if you've heard Dundee United. I don't know what's your views about this, or maybe some Celtic fans are watching this as well and going up to Tannadice tomorrow. Dundee United are charging Celtic fans £42 for tomorrow, Robbie.
Yeah, my views are that's a disgrace. I don't think tickets should cost us near as much as that. And Alistair made the point as well, and the group chat. It doesn't happen to every team. This isn't something that Dundee United do to every team. It seems to be when it's Celtic or Rangers. The prices go up, which it does happen with every team. I know we do it as well. But I don't think that should be a thing that happens in football. I know we've spoken about this before. Tickets are gone up massively in value. I mean, I think I was speaking to a Kelly fan the other day, and I think their season tickets are going up about £60 for next season. Which that's not a team that are high flying. Getting third in the league and playing in Europe. This is a team that could still potentially be in a relegation battle. So I think the whole. I think just money in football is becoming a bit ridiculous, to be honest. But hearing £42 for the ticket, I mean, that's a bit of a joke.
Yeah, and then the other week at McDermott Park, obviously Celtic had their first chance to put a marker down. Obviously, St Johnstone beat them, but I think that was £34 for a ticket, and we know why that they're putting the prices up, because they, to get more fans and more money as well, and because clubs aren't stupid. I mean, they're thinking, well, Celtic's going to win the league. There's going to be millions of Celtic fans. Let's just charge them out the park. But that's a bit unfair, because obviously, and we're looking to do a show before the end of the season, Robbie, about the cost of living, not only in football, but in other sports as well.
Yeah, I mean, just on Celtic, I know season ticket renewals have started this week. I believe the cheapest season ticket renewal is £608, which that is a lot of money to go and watch a team. But as you said, there's still going to be a lot of Celtic fans that are going to pay it. There is, of course, I think there's a couple of fans that have hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter how much tickets cost, there will always be a queue at the door, somebody waiting on a season ticket to go to games, no matter how much the prices are, which really, change is never going to happen if we don't do something about that. And I can respect the fans that do pay the money to go and watch the team and pay that sort of amount of money, because it's not just season ticket. You're paying £600 in Champions League tickets, cup tickets. If you're going away to Europe, that costs more money as well. So it's a really expensive hobby.
Yeah, I think it was it not St Johnstone a couple of seasons ago? They had banners at the football saying 20's plenty. Or was it Ibrox? No,
We had a sign at Ibrox once that said 20's plenty. I know we've done it before as well. But even I think, I mean, I don't think it's been official yet, but I think even our season tickets are going up in price this season as well. So it's becoming a lot more expensive. As the seasons go on, I don't see when it's going to stop. And, I know we don't try and talk about American stuff too much, but we're slowly seeing more American type of deals happening in football. We're seeing the owners coming over, buying clubs. How long is it before we really get Americanized in this country, and we start ticket prices are going through the roof because all the teams are over owned by American owners and stuff like that. I mean, it's a long road you can get into it. Hopefully we do a show on it, but it's just a disgrace at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just thought we'd bring that point up, Robbie, because the game tomorrow. But let's go back to the game then as well. As we spoke about Jim Goodwin, he's had a brilliant season for kind of like Dundee United. I mean, getting him in the getting them in the top six of first game of asking is a brilliant achievement,
Yeah, and it shouldn't go under the radar. It's not just getting them in the top six. A lot of people predicted them to go down, but here they are potentially battling for third. There's still a lot of football to be played, so the achievement could become even bigger for Jim Goodwin. I think he should be in with a shout of manager of the year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's done exceptionally well, and I think there was a lot of maybe pressure on his back in the Championship. It wasn't easy for Dundee United. They didn't make it easy in the Championship. Really did come down to the last couple of games before they wrapped it up. So for him to come into this league when there's pressure on his back, it's no hard. It's no easy, for a Championship team to come up and survive, but to go into the top six and be pushing Europe, that's an even bigger achievement, and it should be recognised for Goodwin.
Yeah, so Jim Goodwin was speaking yesterday at the press conference. He says that we've came off 3 great results, but it's going to be a difficult game. I know Celtic will be coming here for a party, but we are determined to stop that. And that's the thing, Robbie, when Celtic or Rangers or any club's going to win the league, and they've got a chance of winning it away from home, the home team, right then, my mind, are basically saying, well, they're not going to come here just for a party. We're going to show them, and obviously Johnson done that the other week to them.
Yeah, I mean, this is at a time where anybody in the top six, bar Rangers and Celtic, every team, bar they two, should be looking at the games against Rangers and Celtic, especially at home. And obviously we'll get into St Mirren versus Rangers later. But these teams should be looking at these games and going, all right, we can pick up points here. There is a real chance. This is the time of the season where you know that you've still got a lot to play for. Maybe when Celtic don't have a lot to play for in the league, this is the chance you've got to look at and go, right, we need to try and take points off of these guys, because it's fine, beating the rest of the teams around you, but it really could come down to these Celtic and Rangers games. So I think for Dundee United, they need to make it hard and just have a go at Celtic. I think we speak about it on the show all the time. There's no harm. I mean, look, I know what Goodwin's like. He done it with us for a couple of years. I'd rather, again, this is just my opinion, I'd rather lose 3 or 4-0 but have a go in Celtic than lose 1 or 2-0 and sit back and defend, which Goodwin's done it a few times. He has sat back and defended a few times and, took that loss. But overall, I think teams should have a go. There's no harm in it, and we've seen what St Johnstone can do if you have a go at them.
Yep. So, hi, Reagan. You are...
Michael, it's great to be on. Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, no bother. So we were just talking about the game tomorrow. Is this the day? Is this the weekend that Celtic is going to wrap up the league?
I think it will be, Michael, but being quite selfish, I'd quite enjoy it if Celtic go to Ibrox and we win the game. It would be lovely. But tomorrow is the day. It's a big game for Jim Goodwin as well. I know Robbie's not a fan of Jim Goodwin, but it's a big day for him because he's playing well at the moment and he's got his team playing well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I was just asking Robbie there. I mean, what do you make of the progress that Dundee United has made this season under Jim Goodwin?
They've been brilliant, Michael. They've been really good. He took a lot of criticism for his time at Aberdeen, but he's proved people wrong. He's done really well, so I'm happy for Jim Goodwin.
Yep, and Brendan Rodgers said tomorrow this afternoon at his press conference, it'll be a very difficult game. Jim has did a great job up there, but we want to win the league, and we need to win it tomorrow. As well. Do you think it'll be going back to the game last weekend against St Johnstone? Do you think it'll be that kind of game, Reagan? Because as soon as Celtic went one ahead, they couldn't. St Johnstone couldn't lift with Celtic.
If Celtic get an early goal, I think there's only one winner. But I think if Dundee United can keep it scrappy, can stay in the game, then I think it could be an interesting game. Brendan Rodgers referenced that today when I spoke to him at his press conference. He mentioned about the fact that Celtic up there at the start of the season, and it was a pretty dire match to watch, 0-0. So he'll be hoping that they can go there and win the league. He also referenced about the fact that the last few times Celtic have won the title in good style, they've been up at Dundee United. They obviously went there and they drew. I remember the game, Michael. Giacomakis scored, and then Dundee United scored a brilliant goal for Dylan Levitt to make it 1-1. And then obviously, Jan Gurov Hesselink scored a 1-0 win for Celtic in 2008. I remember that game.
Yeah, that was a Gorgon Strachan as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what are you expecting Dundee United, Robbie, tomorrow? Do you think that they will have a game plan, or do you think that they'll come out all kind of guns blazing?
I mean, of course we have a game plan. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting game. Celtic have the most goals per match, and Dundee United have the third best defensive record, goals conceded per match. So it's really tough to call where this game's going to go. I don't expect many goals in the game, to be honest. I think it all depends on how Celtic start. If Celtic start flying like they did against St Johnstone, there could be goals, but I don't think it will go like that. I think it will be a close game. I think there'll be chances for both sides, and I think it really will be maybe one or two goals that nick it for either team.
Reagan, from a Celtic point of view, what are you hoping for? Are you hoping for the kind of start that they made against Kilmarnock last season, to clinch the league down at Rugby Park, or do you think it'll be a kind of slow start to the game? Well, maybe he thinks it's a slow start to the game, Robbie, if he's not there as well. So, yeah, so Dundee United against Celtic. I take it you'll be watching that game before you go off to St Mirren Park.
Yeah, I'll try and catch as much of it as possible before I head into the stadium. It should be a good one though. I'm always excited watching Dundee United and Celtic, or Dundee United and anyone. I remember the couple of times Dundee United played Dundee, the Dundee Derby on Sky. They've been very good games, so it's always an interesting watch. But I will definitely be watching. I think in terms of Celtic, I know you asked Reagan a question, but I think he's having some VAR difficulties right now. I think Celtic will try and keep most of the ball. Dundee United, like us, they don't have the prettiest possession stats. That's not what Jim Goodwin's about. He doesn't play half a possession. But the stuff he does play, it works. So I think Celtic will have most of the ball, but it's just whether they can find the net or not.
Okay, so that's the kickoff on Saturday. I was going to say Sunday for something. Oh yeah, Reagan's back there. I thought it was.
I'm back. I thought I'd done a Katy Perry and went in space.
Yeah,
I didn't go for 11 minutes. Only went for 2.
I was going to say I don't know if you make an impression of death there. Sorry, can't hear you. I can't even remember the question I asked you there, Reagan. But what? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What are you expecting from Celtic tomorrow?
I think if I'm Brendan Rodgers, I'm wanting a fast start for the players, because you don't want to do what they done against St Johnstone. It was in the palm of their hand and then they blew it. So I think Brendan Rodgers is looking for a fast start. I think there'll be tempo in the game. I think Dundee United will be sitting back, as Robbie said there. I think in terms of what I'm expecting Celtic to try and move the ball quick, try and expose the centre backs of Dundee United. But I don't know what you think, Robbie, but I think the team of the year is quite an interesting one, because somebody that I think's been outstanding this year is Jack Walton in the goal with Dundee United.
Aye, Walton's had a fantastic year. To be honest, there's a few positions actually in the team of the year that are maybe up for discussion. But I think you could include maybe a few more Dundee United players. I mean, a player I really like, I don't know if this is maybe personal bias, but look at Stevenson, who's, I know he's on loan at Dundee United. I think he's had a decent year.
He's my brother.
Is it?
No, actually, no.
No, I don't think so. But no, he's had a good year, although stats don't show it. I think the way he plays, he's been very, very good. So there's definitely players in there that are maybe in with a shout. I think that's what you can say about the whole Dundee United squad. It's no maybe some of the most glamorous names, and it's no the best squad, but it's a really, really good foundation. They've got a really strong heart of the team that Jim Goodwin getting into next season. I know he's already spoke about some players he maybe wants to get rid of, but getting into next season, he can maybe look to improve on the foundation that he has with the team.
There we go. That's the games there. That is the top 6. Dundee United against Celtic, St Mirren against Rangers, Aberdeen, Hibs. The bottom 6 tomorrow is Motherwell, St Johnstone, Dundee Hearts and Kilmarnock, Ross County as well. So that's the game. So good afternoon to Jenna. She's watching the game. She's watching the show on Facebook. Thanks for watching. And if you want to comment on anything that the guys are talking about, just put it in the chat and we'll let you know. Robbie, the game tomorrow, 3:00 kickoff. I was saying to you before we come on air, it's a bit unusual to see a St Mirren Rangers game or any Rangers game being a 3:00 kickoff.
Yeah, I think I said 2016 is the last time we've had an untelevised game at home against Rangers or Celtic, so it has been a while. I'm surprised that there's no other game on TV over the weekend, even in the bottom six. Every other game's 3:00 tomorrow, so it's a bit of an unusual one, but it's going to be an interesting game in Paisley. It's one I'm quite looking forward to.
And if you were looking at Robbie's Twitter handle before the game, or X handle, or whatever they say, or just a handle in general, Robbie, can you do the treble over Rangers?
Why not? Is the answer I give you. I mean, it's obviously going to be difficult. I think the one positive we can take is Rangers have nothing to play for. Obviously, before we even get into the game, thank you to Olasanya for all his work that he's done with the club. Obviously, that's now confirmed he's away to Houston Dynamo. Apparent fee of 200k we're going to be getting for him, which for a guy that's out of contract in 5 weeks, superb bit of business. He's given me genuinely some of the best moments following the club, so good luck to him over there. But against Rangers, look, we've done it twice this season. I mean, why not again? Rangers, in a time where they have nothing to play for, and I was listening to Barry's presser earlier, they have quite a few injuries that are setting them back as well getting into this game. So I don't expect this to be a great, high-flying Rangers team that are going to commit the traps at 100 miles an hour. I think, although the away record speaks for itself, and the last time they lost away from home was against us in December. So this game could, honestly, I do not know where this game is going to go. I think what I would say is we've still got something to play for, and that maybe plays an advantage of it. Rangers, although Barry will be looking to keep, he'll be looking to get all 15 points. I don't necessarily think it'll be a high-flying Rangers team, so it really could go either way.
Robbie, I want to ask you in general, do you think that Barry Ferguson's got a genuine chance?
What, a winning tomorrow?
No, of securing the job.
Not anymore. I don't think. No, I don't think. I think. It's always a tough one, right? And I think that if you look at the new owners that are potentially going to come in, I think they'll maybe look to get a statement manager out there, because I think it was on the show for the Europa League game. I forgot who was on. And they were saying, the board maybe want to make a first impression, which I don't know if it would. Yeah, Alex was saying, the board are looking to make a first impression. I think they will. I think Barry's good, but I don't think the new management or the new board would want to give him the job full time, especially as number one. So I think the Rangers board will maybe look at appointing somebody with a big name. There's obviously a few being flung around right now, so we'll just need to see what happens. But for me, I don't think he'll get the job full time.
I actually think it'll be Barry Ferguson or Steven Gerrard. That's what I think, Robbie. Because I don't know if you said you watched Barry Ferguson's press conference today, but he mentioned that he mentioned that a few times for the very first time, actually, that he knows what Rangers need over the summer. And I don't know if he's putting out there to the board to say, look, there's not that long until the start of the season. And I'm not being disrespectful to Sean Dyche here, but I mean, what in the name of the wee man does Sean Dyche know about Scottish football? Do you know what I mean?
Before you answer that, guys, that's the quote of the season from Reagan right there. Name of the wee man. Sorry, on you go, guys. That was so funny.
Reagan, I think you're right. The only two people, in my opinion, that I think know what Rangers truly need over the summer, Gerrard or Barry Ferguson. I don't think. I think someone like a Dyche could work, and I think another name getting flung around, Jose Mourinho. I think that could work as well. But I think the two people that genuinely know what it's going to take to be Rangers manager next year are Ferguson or Gerrard.
I mean, the big thing for me as well, Robbie, is that he knows how difficult it is to go away to St Mirren. Do you know what I mean? Flea Clement, he may be saying St Mirren, who's St Mirren? But then St Mirren have took back-to-back wins against Rangers. So it's all about knowing your opposition. And of course, Sean Dyche can speak to people like Big Duncan Ferguson and people like that. But I just think like there's managers that know what they're doing. And I did find that interesting as well, Robbie. I don't know if you heard it, but Barry did say that if he didn't take the Rangers job, then he would go back into doing radio and doing his ambassador role with Rangers.
Aye, but I think the interesting thing with Rangers is, I know football's not played on paper, but the record's not pretty. If you look at Rangers' last 4 games, 0 wins in the last 4. So I think if you're a new owner looking at that, it's more than that. You know, it is looking at the manager himself and looking at what Barry knows about the club. And you're right, I think if anyone does know how to take Rangers forward, it would be him. But the board will be looking at that record and going, well, we don't really want to give you a shot because look at the results you're serving up right now. And look, I know it's not entirely Barry's fault. It's not his squad. But the record's still not pretty to look at.
To play devil's advocate, Robbie, they got through a European tie and beat Celtic for the first time in years at Celtic Park as well.
True, but they've also, I think they've also struggled though. I mean, they went a 3-1 down to Dundee. They went, I remember, 2 goals down to Kilmarnock in the first or second game. So it could go either way. I don't disagree with any of your points. I think you're spot on, but I just think the way the board will be thinking, the new board, when they come in, they'll be thinking, well, look at the record. I don't think you're the guy to take forward for us.
Ethan, Barry Ferguson made a point that the guys touched upon in this press conference. He says, if I get the job, I will make Rangers a better team. I don't know about you, but does that send a statement out to the Rangers team at the moment that they're not good enough for this level?
Yeah, possibly. I think a lot of maybe what Ferguson's thinking is that he deserves a sort of fair run at it, because I think he's reiterated that he's only going to, by the end of it, he's only going to have had, 3 months in the job. And I mean, that's not really enough time to prove yourself. Although the results have been similar, I think, to when Clement was in charge. I know he's got the big results under his belt, as Reagan said, the win at Celtic Park, the wins against Fenerbahce, competing well for the most part against Athletic Club Bilbao. I think it's the same with it has been for the last few Rangers managers. It's just getting them up, the players up for games on a consistent basis. The big games, the Celtic games, the European games haven't really been the problem. The problem's been your St Mirren's, pretty much any team in the league that isn't Celtic. And I know they've had some heavy defeats to Celtic as well, but I think Barry Ferguson and Steven Gerrard, I think, understand the point. They know the club well, but I think they need someone better, a better manager than that. And I think Sean Dyche, although he doesn't probably know much about the Scottish game, he's a good seasoned manager. He maybe doesn't play the most attractive football in the world. That's why he obviously lost his job at Everton, because he wasn't doing too poorly there. And then you've got the big name, Jose Mourinho, which he also doesn't play typically the most attractive football. But that's not the be all and end all of football. If you want to win, then you get the best manager available, and if that's Sean Dyche or Jose Mourinho, then that's a fair enough call from the owners. Because but I don't know if any of you's heard on the scoreboard. I think it was last night where someone claimed that a very reliable source was saying that Sean Dyche was going to be the next manager. I think we always get this kind of talk on Super Scoreboard, but yeah, if it was to be Sean Dyche, I think he'd be a sort of steady appointment for Rangers, but if is he the right man to bring them to the top of Scottish football, then we'll have to see.
I think
the interesting point for me, Michael, sorry to jump in there. The interesting point for me, guys, is the fact that Rangers have appointed a director of football from Everton. So that says to me they're meaning business as well. And I think something that needs to be called into question as well is that Dutch director of football they've got at the moment. I mean, some of the recruitment that he's brought in has been terrible. Absolutely terrible. I mean, you could have easily went to St. Mirren's checkbook, Dun United's checkbook, and said, right, how are they able to get really good players like Olasanya, Sam Dolby, James Penrice of Hearts. There's loads of players you can think about, and I think for the amount of money that Rangers are spending, the players that they've got, it's been terrible. And I get Robbie's point that the fact that Rangers have not doing too well at Ibrox, but I think I genuinely think some of those players have not got the strength or the mentality to play for Rangers. I don't think it's down to the manager. I think the manager's telling them, right, you need to beat St Mirren, you need to beat Hibs. But I just think some of them genuinely crack under that pressure.
Yeah, and sorry, just to quickly ask you guys a question. I mean, I feel like I was maybe being a bit harsh on Barry, but I look at the Aberdeen game, right, and the question that's been asked on this show the last few weeks is, do these players not know how to play against these teams are breaking down? But for me, the question should be, why does it take them going 2-0 down to show fight? And look, people were saying they can't show fight. Well, to me, they are, because they're coming back against Dundee, they're coming back against Aberdeen. To me, these Rangers players, although I agree some of them shouldn't be at the club anymore, and I don't think they will past the summer. To me, the question should be, why does it take going 2-0 down to then show the fight that you've got? Why can you not do that for minute one?
Because they think it's too easy in Scotland, Robbie, and they just think they can just rock up and play any level of play, and they think it's acceptable.
You're looking at Dessers though, and I was listening to his presses as well, and Dessers is saying, we know how hard it is. He's answering that question directly, saying we know how hard it is to beat an Aberdeen or beat a Hibs, but they're just not showing it on the pitch. To me, it just confuses me that they can show fight. These Rangers players have fight. They showed it at Pittodrie, being 2-0 down, coming back, but they don't. They can't do it all the time.
But Ray, Robbie, you know as well as I do, and everybody's watching this, and Dessers saying that in a press conference, I could sit there and say that about Rangers. You know what I mean? It's just good. It's just for like sound bites. But fans are not interested in that. The fans are saying, well, do your talking on the park. Don't do it. I mean, I remember like Sammer asked me a comment years ago about Rangers. I think Celtic were. He said Celtic were going to win the league, and there were rumours that Rangers pinged that up in the wall, and obviously Rangers went out Ibrox and beat Celtic comfortably. So what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way, Ethan, is like football players shouldn't make statements like that. I mean, you and me can talk all day about Scottish football, but we can deliver a kind of rubbish job.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when it's going to change at Rangers, because for season on season, manager on manager, the problem's been the same. Finding the consistent basis from week to week. Your difficult away trips, it was for the early part of the season where the away form was terrible at times. Now, this time of the season, the home form's atrocious, the worst in the club's history, I'm pretty sure. So these are things that, okay, you can go out and speak to the media like Dessers did and say, we know what we're tasked with in Scotland, playing in Scotland, but you need to go out and do it. No one, as you said, none of the Rangers fans will care of what he has to say. It's about doing the talking on the pitch, and when it comes to lifting silverware, which is what Rangers is built on. They haven't done that often enough recently, and that'll only come through consistency, which has been lacking for years since Steven Gerrard was in charge.
See just finally on Rangers, because I want to get talking about St Mirren as well, because they've been fantastic. See, in terms of the squad, I genuinely don't know how many I would keep. So that's also going to cost Rangers money as well to get rid of all these players. I mean, I'd probably keep Raskin. I'd probably keep Dessers as a second choice striker. Possibly Balogun.
I think if you were to ask any Rangers fan, they keep 90% of the defence. No, they wouldn't keep 90% of the defence, and they get rid of most of it, because that's, for me, probably the biggest worst part of Rangers right now, the defence. I think you keep Suter, and I think you do keep Balogun as well, if he can keep himself fit. I think they're two vital defenders. Suter, for me, has been one of Rangers' best this season, but everybody else, for what we've seen, really not showed much. I mean, I like Yilmaz as well. I think Yilmaz can show a lot of quality, but again, he's injured for this weekend and the rest of the season. How injury prone is he going to be going into next year? So I think there's a big job to do at Rangers.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, there's one man that nobody's mentioned. It's Liam Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
because everybody was backing Butland to be the next England goalkeeper and all that, and look, the rest is history, let's say.
I mean, the question is tomorrow, guys, do we bring Jack Butland back in, or what happens with that?
I think Kelly is going to keep his place. I don't think he's done enough to lose his place. He won it quite fairly, because Butland, as we know, was having an absolutely awful time off the back of a Writers' Player of the Year nominee season. It was really strange how he's went from being debatably the best goalkeeper in the league, because I know Joe Hart had a very good season last campaign as well, into being dropped for Liam Kelly, who, in all respect, was having a difficult time at Motherwell last season. And look at how it's all turned around for him. But yeah, I think Rangers, the problem, and one of the other problems, is that I think at Celtic and Rangers, they talk about project players that you're bringing in, young players that have to develop at the club and you sell them on. I think Rangers have got too many of them and they're relying too heavily on them. It's all well and good having your sort of experienced campaigners that are consistent performers. I mean, you think about, just in comparison, you think about Celtic. They've got a consistent defender, Cameron Carter-Vickers. They've got a consistent midfielder, Callum McGregor. They've got a consistent attacker, Dyson Maeda. Do you think Rangers have got a consistent performer on all of those positions? I think possibly in defence and midfield, I think John Sutter's had a very good season. I think Raskin's had a very good season as well. I think Diamandi's had a pretty good season as well. But a lot of the other players are they're relying on a lot. Igaman, okay, he's got a lot of talent, but he was getting thrown in all the time at points. The same with Jeffy. He obviously doesn't look like he's the product. Some of his defending from crosses especially is sometimes schoolboy. But that's the players Rangers have got, so they need to rely on them. And that makes it difficult, because I think the project players, if we're calling it that, should be good enough to still win the majority of games in the Scottish Premiership, but that's not how it's turning out. And it's difficult because Rangers don't have many players in that squad now that have been there for a while. You think Leon Balogun's had 2 spells, he's been there for quite a while. James Tavernier's obviously been there for a long time. But out with that, you're looking at players who haven't been there for a very long time and haven't had much success at the club either. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to turn it around, no matter what manager they get. But you feel they need to get this appointment right, because the gap between them and Celtic for trophies would only get bigger.
And Robbie, from a St Mirren point of view, I bet you it's brilliant going into the game because there's a lot of unsettling Ibrox as well about the new manager when American owners will they come in, if they come in as well, because it's not a done deal yet. Even though if you listen to some kind of journalists from different media outlets, they say yes, it's a done deal, but I'll say if it's a done deal when the guy's written on the line to say that he's took over Rangers as well. But St Mirren, you've had a perfect season. You've made the top 6 again. You've been in Europe for the first time in God knows how long. You're having a chance to get back into Europe as well. As we were talking about everything going wrong for Rangers, and now it's like the total opposite for St Mirren.
Yeah, but I mean, one negative is obviously losing a top goal scorer this season, Olasanya, although obviously the financial side of that's probably best off for us. But look, we should be confident getting into this. I've listened to 2 crack interviews this week on YouTube with Jim Gillespie and Stephen Robinson speaking to, I think it was the Scottish on Sport or something like that, about their time at the club. And, they were both very honest that although it is a huge achievement getting 3 top 6s in a row, there's still work to be done. We've got 5 big games. We've still got a chance at Europe, although we're outside favourites for it. Robinson knows that till now and the end of the season, just keep going. Don't let the heats drop. Don't think it as a holiday. And I think he said that in his presser earlier. We need to keep going, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be confident against Rangers. Honestly, I think that could just be me being slightly biased going into the game. But the last 2 games have shown if you go at Rangers, you can really get at them. Annoyingly, one of the highlights of playing Rangers was Olasanya off of Robin Proper, who I think was made to look a bit of a fool off Olasanya in the last 2 games. But obviously we don't have him available, so it's going to be a slightly different game in terms of the way we play. We're not going to be able to hoof the ball up to Olasanya over the top of the defence and try and run at them. It's going to be playing it into Mandro and try to build off of there. So it's going to be a slightly different game to maybe the last 2. But again, I'm feeling as confident as I did for the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think another thing say about St Mirren is you could argue this for Celtic, but I think they're the only maybe 2 teams that are playing without that much pressure, because the other 3 teams above St Mirren are obviously all still well in with a chance of getting third. Rangers all want to finish the season strongly because Barry Ferguson will want to finish the season strongly because they've not brought success to the fans, and the fans will expect that, especially when they're on a losing run at home and a losing run in a run without a win in general. So St Mirren can sort of sneak under the radar that the expectation isn't on them to get Europe, but going to Ibrox, they can play with the freedom that they usually would do. Whereas Rangers, this sort of home Ibrox hoodoo's starting to hang over them a little bit, and I think St Mirren can sort of maybe go under the radar and maybe make a push for Europe. I do think they'll finish 6th because I think it is too far a gap, but you never know. So yeah, it'll be entertaining to see how it goes tomorrow and how it goes for the rest of the split.
I'm just glad that we're getting into this game and we're not on the other side of the table. We're not playing a Dundee or something like that at home on a relegation battle, because we would be in for a tough ride the last 5 games if that was to be the case. But you're right, we can go and play with freedom. I'm excited to go into the stadium tomorrow. I think the atmosphere should be good. We're looking at close to a sellout again, which I think's happened the last 3 home games. So the fans are getting right behind the team. I expect there'll be even more fans knowing that this game's not going to be on the telly. So it should be a good day. Hopefully the 3-peat over Rangers, as I put in my Twitter earlier, and hopefully I'm celebrating again by full time, because the last time we were there, obviously confirming top 6. I mean, the atmosphere was just incredible. I think that is just all down to Robinson. Honestly, I think to be as unbiased as possible. Honestly, he should be in shout for manager of the year for me, and it's not just because of this season and a whole every season. It's being in the top 6 3 seasons in a row, the only team outside the Rangers and Celtic to do so. It's, dealing with off the pitch issues, dealing with on the pitch issues. We played in Europe and didn't know where we were training when we came back to Paisley. So the work that he's managed to do has been incredible. I'd encourage anyone
Robbie, would you say he's been the modern day best at minute manager? Or would
I think
you say something else?
Well, I think he's been the best at my manager all the time, in my opinion. Obviously, I don't know very back at the start. Obviously, there could be other managers, but no, for me, by far the best. And I'd encourage anyone to go and listen to the Jim Gillespie interview and this Robinson one, because they're two fantastic interviews. And obviously, Robinson's made his ambitions clear that he wants the Northern Ireland job one day. And for me, if it is going to be at the end of the season, or if we're still going to get to keep him till the end of the contract, if he leaves, honestly, no complaints ever for me. He deserves a bigger job than us, and he deserves so much credit. And for Paisley, I think he can have the keys to Paisley if he wants. That's how good he's been.
Well, maybe not the keys to Paisley as well.
No, because there's a lot of people that stay there and they might get their houses.
Yeah, thanks very much for that one. Thanks, Reagan, for saying that. Ethan, see when you, I'm just listening to what Robbie was talking about there, right? See when you look at all the clubs in the top 6, I would maybe put St Mirren at the bottom, off the bottom of the top 6, financial as well. Because obviously you've got Rangers, you've got Aberdeen, you've got Hibs, and obviously you've got maybe Dundee United as well. But it's big money for St Mirren as well.
Yeah, it's got to be. I don't know, obviously from a first-hand perspective, as Robbie probably does, but it's got to be a really sort of just feel great factor around St Mirren at the moment. Secured top 6. Okay, maybe Europe is a step too far, but you're not having to look down and worry about relegation. There will be a lot of backing from fans after another successful season. You've obviously got Olasanya, who you got a lot of money for how long he had on his contract. Okay, he doesn't play in the last few games of the season, but I mean, I don't think they're going to mean too much to St Mirren in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I mean, you've just got to highlight what Stephen Robinson's done. I mean, the finances he's got up against the 4 teams in the top 6 that stand out: Aberdeen, Hibs, Celtic, and Rangers. And then, okay, maybe Dundee United's a little bit more of a similar story with Jim Goodwin, but still a brilliant achievement from both those clubs. And credit has to go to both the managers as well. Because they've obviously had great seasons. Well, another great season, because Dundee United obviously won the championship last year, so they had another good season there. So yeah, credit's got to go to those 2 managers because they're punching above their weight.
I mean, sorry, just I know I've got a couple minutes left, but I'm looking at the finances, and I think we are maybe 3rd bottom in terms of finances in the league. I think I'd maybe place us 10th in terms of the financial backing we have. And I think Robinson made a really interesting point. He made it clear, he doesn't get all the money in the world, but he gets enough backing off the board where he can go and bring in 6 or 7 players every season, and try and sort of better achieve what we've already achieved, which is obviously becoming harder every season. It's no surprise that getting into next season, what more can we do rather than go and try and win a cup at some point. That's the only thing that can make this better. So if we were to get top 6 or 6th or 7th every season for the next 2 or 3 seasons, I'd be more than happy. I don't think our fans should be putting that expectation on to try and improve. And I know it always happens at every club. You're always looking to improve each season, but honestly, with the budgets and the resources we have, I'm very happy just being in the mid-table. That's more than enough for me. But Robinson deserves the praise of the world. Honestly, I don't know when we'll lose him, but it's going to be a tough time by my day, because I honestly don't see who could replace that man. It's just so much praise for him and the work he's done. Not just him as well, the backroom coaches. He was speaking about Jamie Langfield being one that he's developed this season. He's now teaching the strikers in training, he said. So, it's not just him developing the players and on the pitch, it's off the pitch as well. You know, it's a real community club. It's everybody's together and stuff. So it's as Ethan said, it's a real good feel factor right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. And am I right in saying Robbie St Mirren is a fan-owned club?
Yeah, we're a fan-owned club. There's actually been a few articles that have come out recently about the sort of fan-owned stuff. Some really interesting reads. Obviously, I know there's something about the 1877 club that's come out recently about them changing their ways. So there's a lot going on at the club right now. But I think it's minority fan-owned. I think I couldn't even tell you the exact numbers, maybe 49% fan-owned, I think, around about those numbers. So it's a really good system. I'd really love to see the rest of the league be that way and be majority fan-owned and, you know, be the sort of way we are, because it does work, and I think it's over in Germany they do it as well. I'm going to have to head off, but I'm going to go 2-1 St Mirren for tomorrow. So that's my prediction.
There we go. Thanks, Robbie. Enjoy the game.
Cheers, Robbie. All the best, mate.
Yeah, right, see you later.
There we go. Reagan, Robbie's away. I was just going to say, Kim, has St Mirren got... we've always got a good phrase in Scottish football. Has St Mirren got Rangers' number?
I think they probably have, but Barry will want to change that tomorrow, because the last two performances, if I'm not wrong, Ethan, were under Fleet Clement, so he'll want to say that was a Fleet Clement problem rather than a Rangers problem. I'm just interested to get your guys' thoughts on this match then. I mean, obviously, but Barry was talking earlier about the fact that Rangers have got a few injuries. But whereabouts do you guys think the match will be won and lost?
I think it'll be won and lost in Rangers' backline, because although maybe they've not, St Mirren haven't got Olasanya anymore, but they're still going to play the same style. It's still going to be that sort of long ball football that we've associated with them this season. I'd imagine it'll be a younger and Mandron, barring if they're not fit or whatever, and they cause problems for Rangers in the last game especially. And I think the Rangers' central defence will have to deal with the physical battle, because they certainly didn't last time. I don't know who will be in the central defence for Rangers. I imagine John Souttar will be one of the names, but I don't know who the other one or two will be, depending on how Barry Ferguson lines up. But yeah, I would say that would be the sort of key area. But St Mirren, I don't know. They have a chance. Of course, they have a chance. They've won the last two against Rangers. Rangers are on a terrible run in general, a terrible run at home. St Mirren are on an all-time high. So it could go either way. But Rangers' quality at home has got to shine through eventually. So you could easily see them picking up 3 points as well.
So that's the game tomorrow.
So we got a prediction for this one, Michael? Obviously,
yeah.
Robbie said 2-1.
Yeah,
I'll go 1-0 to Rangers. I'll go Dessers to score the winner.
Ethan?
I'm going to go with 2-0 Rangers. They've got to win at home eventually.
Even though they're not at home, they're away.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why I kept saying they're at home. No. Yeah, of course, because Robbie's going to the match.
So they won't win tomorrow at home.
Yeah, they won't win tomorrow at home. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to go for a draw now that it's away from home. I'm going to go for a 2-each draw. I don't know why I thought they were playing at home.
Oh, okay. I will 2-1 St Mirren tomorrow.
Oh, he's sticking his neck on the line.
Yes. Well, it's nice weather outside, so I'm going to stick my neck out every time. So yeah, 2-1 on that one as well. Let's speak about the last game on the top six tomorrow. It is Aberdeen and Hibs. And before I talk about this game, Ethan, I don't know why this game's not on the TV, because this is going to be a cracker.
Yeah, I know that the TV deal is just, when it comes to the split, it's just a big letdown.
I can tell you why, Michael.
Oh, you've got
Because
news.
I can tell you why. Because the clubs agreed to only show a certain amount of home matches.
Yeah, that's it.
So
But
it's the club's
Yeah.
fault.
So obviously Aberdeen with Celtic and Rangers even going up there.
yeah, I think so. It's rubbish because the split's such a entertaining spectacle for fans. I think anyway. I know we've talked about redevelopment and whatever, but if you can't have the games on the telly, or you can only have very few of them, I mean, we've not even got any of the bottom 6 games on the telly. But yeah, it's a massive game, as Paul's saying in the chat. And I think it could go either way. But I really can't see past Hibs at the moment. I mean, they're still on their ridiculous run in the league. They obviously blew away Dundee last time out. I know that was a fortnight ago. Aberdeen got that massive win in the Scottish Cup, albeit they didn't play too great against Hearts. But I just fancy Hibs to nick it because I think they're carrying too much momentum, and I think they will eventually pull away from the rest of them.
Robbie, no, Robbie's away. Reagan, what do you think of this game tomorrow, Aberdeen against Hibs?
I think this will be the game that Hibs will fall. I just think Aberdeen will be up for it. I think it's a cracker. I'm actually going to watch it tomorrow. So I think it's going to be an absolute cracker.
Ethan, and I know that both teams have got stuff to play for as well, but obviously Aberdeen, because they've got into a cup final, at the end of the season, so everybody will be fighting for the cup final places.
Yeah, definitely. I think we might have had this sort of debate on here before. That Aberdeen will have to balance the Scottish Cup final and chasing third place because they're still well in with a chance of that. If they win tomorrow, then they're level on points. Perhaps the goal difference is a big difference, but if they were to go level and break David Gray's streak, then maybe you could see Hibs having a sort of downturn in form, and then Aberdeen build confidence after 2 massive wins against the Edinburgh clubs. So yeah, it's a massive end to the season for Aberdeen, and it could really dictate how Jimmy Tillene's first season's looked upon. I mean, if he wins the Scottish Cup and gets a third place finish, securing Europe for Aberdeen, that would be a ridiculous first season as Aberdeen manager. If he gets to the final and maybe falls to 4th or 5th, I think it's still a very solid season for him. Maybe less solid than what it looked like at the start, because we all thought that Aberdeen were maybe gonna really challenge Celtic and Rangers this season, but they obviously had that massive point in the season where they couldn't buy a win.
Reagan, I know that in the last couple of weeks that you've been on about the manager of the year, and obviously you're touting David Gray, right? But see, if you look outside obviously I think Brendan Rodgers will get it just because that he might potentially win the treble, and he's going to be the most successful manager ever in Celtic history. Well, according to him today, that he's he's behind Josh Green and all that. But I mean, I think this is the first season, guys, that you can actually say the manager of the year is a more harder one than the player of the year.
Yeah, definitely. Usually, manager of the year award is usually, most of the time, it's given to either it's been given to Celtic managers most recently. But I think the sort of recent success Celtic have had with winning the trebles means that winning the treble is viewed as less of achievement as maybe it was even 5-10 years ago, which is, I mean, probably not correct, but it opens the sort of interpretation to other managers winning it for what achievements they've done. David Gray reviving Hibs to third. As Robbie said, Stephen Robinson getting another top six finish with St Mirren and their financial situation. So yeah, you could definitely make a case, and as you said, there's no debate for player of the season. I mean, Dyson Maida's having a ridiculous season. I don't know where this season ranks, but I can't remember a season where an attacker has had as good a season for quite a while now. I think we're talking about best season in 5 years, best season in maybe even 10 years, because I can't remember a player scoring as many goals. I know Lee Griffiths did, but we're talking about Champions League goals as well, and goals in a league that has Rangers in it, because when Griffiths done it, obviously Rangers weren't in the league. So yeah, I would say Maeda's season. I don't know what you two think of that, but I'd say Maeda's season is one of the greatest in recent history.
Yeah, I think he's been great, especially because he's playing out of position. I think he's been really good. I think in terms of in recent history, I think done really well. I think in terms of like Brendan Rodgers, I don't even think Brendan Rodgers. I ideally wanted Maeda to be his first choice striker, but it's just the way it's happened. I think in terms of what you're saying there, Ethan, I think what he's done though is he's got an amazing contribution. I was well, I don't know about you, Ethan, but I would be back against Dyson Maeda potentially getting to 40 goals between now and the end of the season. I mean,
Yeah,
right now he's on 33.
yeah. I believe he needs just one more goal than a goal a game. And he could definitely do that with the run he's been on, especially since the turn of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he done that. And I mean, as you said, whether he's best position striker on the wing is still up for debate, because he's been an absolute menace in both positions. And he only started playing striker recently. So to get a sort of 40 goal season playing on the wing for a lot of it is why I think it's one of the best seasons that I've personally seen from a player in the Scottish Premiership, because I just believe that. Yeah, I do see Paul's point on the golfing finances, and I think that is where a lot of the debate around who the manager of the season should be. But yeah, I would still give it to Brendan Rodgers if he wins the treble, personally. But I can understand why there's a debate around that nowadays.
Well, I mean, if Falkirk win tonight, Ethan, then John McGlynn needs to be in the serious contention.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree, because back-to-back promotions, we don't see it often, especially. I mean, I know Ipswich done it, but I mean, back-to-back promotions, one of the seasons going invincible they did in League One. So yeah, he definitely. I mean, there's probably too many candidates to even put in a candidate list. But yeah, it really could go either way.
Well, do you know?
Ethan, Graham's asking you in the chat. I know obviously you're there, Reagan, but Graham said, Ethan, do you think Ida should still? Ethan, do you think Ida should still be at Celtic next season?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, Graham poses, but I think he should be. I know he's not had the best season, or maybe the season to live up to his price tag, as a lot of people have mentioned, but he still contributed. Not as much as probably he would have liked, not as much as the Celtic fans would have liked. But I think if you were to sell him now, you wouldn't get much back on your investment. Whereas I think he's still a younger player. There's still years of development to be there, and you can still sell him on for possibly a profit on what you bought him for. And I know that sounds ridiculous to think of, but you never know. Players are funny. No one expected us to be sitting here talking about Daisen Maeda scoring 40 goals in a season. So anything can happen. I still think Adam Ida's done enough to at least be a member of the Celtic squad next season.
Regan, what's your thoughts?
I don't think he'll be there, to be honest with you, Michael. And don't know if you even watched the Brendan Rodgers press conference today.
Yeah.
But he spoke again about the fact that he's not a silly player. And I think he was referencing back to Adam Ida. Also, I think Brendan Rodgers thought he was getting a better player than he's actually thought that Ida was going to be. I think Celtic will strengthen in the striker department even, and if Adam Ida can't get in ahead of Maeda at the very start when Kyogo left, I think he's probably his days at Celtic are numbered for me, because I just feel like is as much as Maeda has done really well, I think that as soon as Kyogo left, that was Ida's point to go right. The main striker left. Now's my time to go in, and it's not really happened.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Ida will stay because I think he's only been here a season. I just don't think Celtic would sell him because I don't think they'll get enough money. And I still think he'll have a role to play. And I think Celtic will strengthen in the attacking area, whether they get a winger, because Daisen Maeda, you could debate he's now a striker rather than a winger. And I think if you're putting him down as a striker, then maybe you need a winger more. If you're putting Daisen Maeda down as a winger, then yes, you need a striker to complement Adam Ida. And I think Celtic thought that they would get a striker, and I think Brendan Rodgers even said that in January, but they obviously didn't. So that would tell you that they've got someone in that's planned to come in. So you'd imagine they'd strengthen one on a striker. Whether that sees Adam Ida's minutes reduced even more, we'll have to see. But I still think he's got a place at Celtic, personally.
I know we've got Paul Donaldson in the comments. I've seen that Miovski's not doing so well in La Liga. I'm actually thinking that Miovski might be a genuine option for Celtic in the summer. I don't know about you.
Possibly.
I don't know if Paul's got an opinion on this, but Paul, do you think that Miovski could possibly make the step up?
Just before Paul gets his thoughts in, I think that's definitely an interesting point to make. But it's just, I don't think players nowadays, unless it's really, really, really bad, players usually stay for more than a year because they sign massive contracts with massive amounts of money on the line. And Girona, part of the Man City group, so I don't think they'll be too short on money, and I can imagine they can probably offer Bojan Miovski more than Celtic would be willing to offer him, which means that maybe he wouldn't come back to Scotland. But he'd definitely be an interesting player because obviously he was linked with Celtic in his time at Aberdeen. But obviously Girona nipped in and got him. It hasn't went too well for him, but I could see him staying at Girona probably.
Just before I leave, guys, I just want. I know Paul's made a wee comment in there saying if you any thoughts on the Aberdeen team news tomorrow. I've got a question for Paul, genuinely, and Michael and Ethan as well. Hear me right? Seeing Niskanen from Aberdeen, I mean he's been a standout for the past few games, but every single match the manager tends to take him off for about 55, 60 minutes.
Yeah. I think he's been a good signing because I think he was one of the most expensive ever. He came at just under £1 million. But I think Keskinen's been good, yeah. For the team, I don't think Aberdeen will really change much from last week's game. I'm not too aware about injury news or whatever. I'm sure Paul will be more aware, but I think it'll be more of the same team, to be honest. Because that team, in the attacking lineup, at least, the attacking four of Keskinen, Morris, Gay and Nisbet's worked quite well. So yeah, I could see that.
But obviously the man from Palestine that scored for Aberdeen, I can't remember his name. Is it
Daba.
Daba.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly got a bit something about him too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a few goals, most of them off the bench. But I think Jimmy Delaney obviously likes Nisbet, and Nisbet's had a decent season. I don't think he's quite reached the heights that he did in his Hibs days, but he still had a good season and contributed decently to Aberdeen's season.
Regan, before you go, what do you think of? Obviously, we spoke about Aberdeen there. What about Hibs tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Hibs will offer a threat for Aberdeen, but I just think with the home crowd and everything involved with it, I just think Aberdeen will get over the line. But obviously Hibs are doing really well right now. I mean, somebody that I really like and people don't seem to be talking about, Michael, is Triantes, the Australian player. I think he's been brilliant for Hibs for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think Triantis has been very good this season. I've just seen Graham's comment about Dava. Yeah, I think Triantis has been one of their best players this season. And I think he can maybe consider himself slightly unlucky to miss out on.
Graham, that's bad patter.
the players,
Shocking.
the
block him, Michael. Block him.
the players' team of the season. I think Triantis was unlucky to miss out. I also think Nicky Cadden was. I think they two will be battling it out for Hibs player of the season because I think they've been the two standouts. So yeah.
I mean, I think that only answer I could give back to Graham was, what do you expect? Because Graham's power won't be up too much because the team's in the bottom six. So yeah, I should caveat that comment and say sorry, Ethan, but it's too late now, you know. Paul Donaldson says, I think Nisbet will start the game tomorrow. And Sokler is out for the rest of the season. But I think Regan, I think that will be a bit of a blow for the cup final as well.
That is true, but Sokler, he's always a kind of player that I like to watch. I was just going to say to Paul as well, it'll be interesting to see if the manager sticks by Jimmy McGrath as well, because he's a player that I really like, Paul, and obviously you guys as well. I mean, he's somebody that I really like, and I don't know if he'll play him tomorrow, Paul, because that's his team for next season. So I don't know. He might play him, but he might just say, I don't want you involved in this match, because I think deep down, Jimmy McGrath will want him to win European football, so he's playing it.
You've seen that with Tony Docherty this season. I think Lyle Cameron's been pulled out the squad for the Rangers games after obviously signing a pre-contract with Rangers. A lot of them have been injuries, but I think we can doubt over whether Cameron was actually injured or not. But yeah, McGrath had a great start to the season. I think he was probably in the first few weeks when Aberdeen were doing brilliant. He was in early contention for player of the season, but that seems a long time ago now. But yeah, he's obviously back from his injury. So yeah, he's been playing, and that's interesting what Paul said about a few boos from the Aberdeen support, because it's not seen as a bit of a what would you call it, a sideways move, you could maybe call it, going from Aberdeen to Hibs. I know Hibs are above Aberdeen in the table, but financially, club size, similar clubs.
You
yeah,
better not say that to any Hibs fan, Ethan. Step down.
What?
I'm saying you better not say
No, I'm not
to
saying.
any Hibs fan.
I'm saying similar club sizes.
No, I heard it the first time around there.
What did I say? Did I say step down?
No, it was a sort of bigger. You were sort of saying bigger club, and then you kind of stood away from it there.
By the way, I'm not getting involved in this guy.
No, I'm not getting involved. The Hearts, Hibs, and Aberdeen fans can debate between themselves who's the biggest club out of the three of them.
There you go. Well done, Ethan. You've
Well done, Ethan. You saved yourself there. Huh?
You've actually started that and then ran away. So well done.
Yeah.
That's a first look into journalism that you've took there. Make a headline and run away, or else maybe set a fire and run away before the bomb comes in. So yeah, that's why Ethan's on the show. To say about a controversy apart from me and Reagan, so that's good. Let's go into the bottom six then. I think the game of the day in the bottom six, Ethan, is Motherwell against Johnson.
Yep. So obviously difficult recent times for both teams. Motherwell obviously missed their chance to get top six, although they wouldn't have got it anyway because St Mirren won, but they didn't exactly put up a fight or look like securing top six. For St Johnstone, their recent league form's been pretty decent. They still sit 5 points at the bottom, I'm pretty sure. And they obviously, off the back of it, that thrashing in the Scottish Cup semi-final. So that confidence for both these teams will probably be an almost all-time low. St Johnstone will look for any points to survive and move into even the relegation playoff. Whereas Motherwell will look for any points to avoid the relegation playoff. I can see this going. I think Motherwell will win this match, though. I think at home, I can see them sort of getting the job done and getting a bit of confidence back. And I think St Johnstone will be down and out after this, to be honest. I think I maybe would have given them a chance, but I think with just how the last weekend goes, I think that might have knocked the stuffing out of them a little bit. And they'll find it difficult to get themselves back up for the fight.
Reagan, I was trying to build St Johnson's case up there a bit when he even said that it's knocked the stuffing out of me as well. But I was going to say, I know I said this to Robbie early on about his St Mirren got Rangers' number. Could you say that about St Johnstone tomorrow as well?
Possibly, but I think St Johnstone are looking. They're looking okay at the moment, but that defeated Celtic will take a bit of the stuffing out of them, as you said there. But I mean, I think like, in terms of St Johnstone, they'll be happy now. They're 5 points behind, but they've also got a huge 5 games to go. But they're playing, like the same opposition that they play. They're not playing Celtic anymore. They're not playing Rangers. That they're playing teams that are similar levels with them. So they'll be hoping that it's a bit more love for them. I just want to say thank you to you guys because that's me off now. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Cheers. See you
No
after.
bother. See you soon, Regan.
Bye, guys.
There you go, Regan. Yeah, so I was trying to build the game up there, Ethan, and I was trying to give St Johnson a chance, but listening to you, I think Motherwell will win this one about 9-0 tomorrow after you've made that comment. But
No,
I
not
kinda
that bad.
yeah, but I can get what you mean about last week's performance at Hampden Park, but like I just feel as though that because don't forget that if St Johnson kind of stays up this season, right, and I think they've got an outside chance and they're still my favourite team, my favourites to stay up. I think all the St Johnson fans will look back at the Motherwell game in the Scottish Cup as a kind of like turning point.
Yeah, definitely. Because no one's seen that result really coming at the time. It came as a bit of a shock. Then they got another win against Motherwell in the league right after. But I think that was in the sort of when Motherwell were in a really, really poor state without a manager, or with the interim. I think now they've got Michael Wimmer in. I think, okay, he's maybe not done as well as they would have hoped when there was still a chance of top six, but I still think they'll do enough to beat St Johnstone. Because I think we've seen it with Aberdeen following the League Cup semi against Celtic when they went into the game with confidence after a good league result against Celtic, and then they were just blown away. And then after that, Aberdeen really struggled, and that started the downfall of their season, which has been revived since then. But St Johnstone really don't have time for downfalls in their season. They're in a decent spell at the moment, but I just don't think they have enough to close the 5-point gap. It is quite a big gap to close in 5 games. But I would say if they win this game, then you never know, because they'll have confidence that they can compete with any team in the bottom 6 and take 3 points off them.
There you go. Graham says in the chat that Johnson have only scored 33 goals in the league this season, and yeah, that's very low. So, what's your thoughts on Valakari, Ethan? Because I've been very impressed with him listening to him after the game and before the game. Well, especially before the game, because he's very passionate about the game.
Yeah, I really like him as well. I think he's a breath of fresh air, as the saying goes, to Scottish football. I know it's not always clicked for him, but I think since he's come in, he's provided entertaining football. With a really, if you looked at it before January, St Johnstone did have a really good poor group of players that there was no real surprise they were at the bottom of the table. But some of the signings he's made in January have been really good. I think, along with Graham's Hearts, I would arguably say they two teams maybe had the best January windows. Actually, Aberdeen had a good January window as well, but I think St Johnstone, that's the reason why they've been playing a lot better as of late, because of those January signings that come in and freshen up the squad. They've obviously got a new goalkeeper as well, and Fisher has been pretty good. He's got more clean sheets already in the league since he joined in January than any of the other goalkeepers managed in the first part of the season. So yeah, I think St Johnstone and I think Valakari, I'd be really confident with them in the Championship if they did go down. I think they would be big favourites to come back up. And I'd really, actually, I know St Johnstone fans won't want this because they obviously want to stay up, as will the club, for financial reasons. But going down into the Championship, I'd really like to see how Valakari's possession-based style of play played out in the Championship, because obviously he'll have, in comparison to this season, where on paper he has the worst players in the league, You'll have on paper the best players in the league in the Championship, and it'll be interesting to see how that style, which has looked good at points, would play out.
And I suppose that the other way to look at the game, I'm actually thinking that this could be a local derby, because obviously Michael Wimmer from Sweden and Valakari is from Finland, so it's just across the water from each other as well. But what do you think of? Obviously, you touched upon Marvel earlier on.
Well, I
what
think
do you-
Wimmer's
Yeah.
German. Is he German? I think Wimmer's German.
Oh, German, yeah, just edit that bit out, yeah. Yeah. Well done, Ethan.
No, I
keep
just
going.
thought didn't want to leave you looking stupid there.
No, it's okay. I always look stupid. I cognitively glare anyway, so that's good. But what do you make of his progress since it's come into Motherwell? Obviously, it's come in under unique circumstances, you would say, because Stuart Kettlewell wasn't sacked because he was doing a rubbish job. I think he was doing an okay job. But obviously the fans started to cause a bit of disruption, and that's why this. So what do you make of him this season?
Yeah, I think he's been interesting. I think, as you said, with Kettlewell, it was a sort of unfortunate situation. I mean, no one wants to see that having to leave the club because of some of the abuse that his family got. And I actually made a post saying that I didn't think the Kettlewell sort of abuse was warranted. Or not, of course, that the abuse to that level isn't warranted at all, but the sort of agenda that Kettlewell should have resigned or left. I thought he still earned the right to fight it out. I know it was going terribly, but with Wimmer, since he's come in, he's won 2, drew 2, lost 3, so it's kind of been a balanced tenure, not too high, not too low. I think Motherwell fans got really excited at the start of his spell, but the result against Hearts, I think some of the fans were really frustrated at that, because they never looked like winning that match at all. But from what I've heard and what I've seen from some of the players, Andy Halliday speaking openly about him, it seems like the players have bought into what he's trying to do, but you never really know because, of course, the Motherwell players are going to say that and they're not going to turn around and say, oh, yeah, this manager's rubbish. So, yeah, but I think it's interesting. Like most managers that come in halfway through the season, you've got to give them a full summer to see what he can do. But Motherwell's priority now is obviously avoiding the bottom 2 places in the bottom 6. And I think they will do that. And I think they'll move further away with a win this weekend.
Okay, let's move on to the game at Tynecastle. Graham's Hearts against Dundee tomorrow. And I don't know about you, Ethan, but I can only see one winner here, and that's maybe a probably just costly game for Graham, but I could only see a Hearts win tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. This has been a weird fixture throughout the season because obviously the sort of Hearts downfall under Stephen Naismith started at Dens with that loss against Dundee. Dundee have turned around some great results this season. They've scored lots of goals. I don't think the start was... No, but the other week, before Hibs 4-0 win against Dundee had only been outscored in the Premiership by Celtic and Rangers, which is quite a ridiculous stat considering they're sitting second bottom. But yeah, I don't see them turning out a good performance here, or good enough a performance. I think Hearts will take spirit from the semi-final, although they lost, and I think they'll bounce back with a win, and a good win, and I think Hearts will be fine. I don't think there'll be any trouble finishing in the bottom two places.
It's always a weird season when this team comes up because we were praising Dundee last season as well. In fact, we were maybe talking about Tony Docherty being the manager of the season as well, but
Yeah.
it's like the total opposite this season, Ethan, and I don't really know what's happened. Maybe you can put it down to the squad depth, like McCown leaving, Cameron leaving, and the summer could go for Rangers. It did show you that they haven't got the strength and depth that everybody was talking about.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of thought that they had enough. Maybe not to get top six again because that was a ridiculous achievement last season. But to not be as low as they are. And I mean, there's been points in this season where I think everyone's thought that St Johnstone were going to catch up to them. Dundee would be at the bottom. That's never happened. I think Dundee are they're too reliant on outscoring the opposition, and I know that's the aim of the game, but I think their defence is just really, really poor. The worst in the league by quite a distance, and that's why they're second bottom of the league. And I expect them to ship a lot of goals tomorrow.
Well played there, Ethan. I thought what you did. Yeah, I think everybody can work it out as well. So you've let me get this right now. So you've annoyed the Aberdeen and his fans, and you nearly swore on the show. Well done. I think Ethan should be the man of the match for this. Not for the show, but the player of the season. But anyway, Graham said in the chat that it's a shambles we're in this position. We need to make sure we don't disgrace ourselves into the playoff. And that's the thing because obviously no matter who's in the bottom six, you're automatically say, oh, well, you're going to fight to stay up. But I mean, just for a team of Hearts size, the support, the money that they've got, the stadium, the whole support. I mean, no disrespect to any of the other teams in the bottom six, but Hearts shouldn't be there, you know. And I mean, they had a chance to make the final last week, and okay, they done well with 10 men, 9 men, obviously, but at the end up they get beat.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I just don't think Neil Critchley's diamond formation's really working. I think it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad at the weekend, although they lost, but they were good in the game up until the red card, where they had to sort of reserve a lot of their attacking options. But I think Hearts will do enough in the bottom six. I don't think they'll win every game, but I think they'll slog to the finish line. I can see them maybe not even losing a game, but winning with maybe a few draws in there. But I think Hearts will have enough. They have a good enough squad. If you look at some of the players they've got and some of the players they brought in January as well.
Yeah, of course, it's a big game tonight. Falkirk, we will speak about that in a few minutes as well. Yeah, I mean, how would you sum up Critchley's first kind of season in charge of Hearts? It started well, and then, you know, it finished so badly.
Yeah. I think it's one that's come under a lot of scrutiny from Hearts fans because a lot of them aren't happy that he's not winning the quote-unquote big games, the ones against your Hibs, your Aberdeen, your Celtic, your Rangers. And as a Hearts manager, you need to win those games. But I think he's shown enough progress from where he picked up the squad. Because you've got to remember, Hearts were right at the bottom of the league, along with Hibs, after Naismith had sort of led them down a dark alleyway at the start of the season. So I think you still need to give him the summer because some of his signings in January have been good. Kabanga, I know that he's not always the most clinical player, but he has brought goals. Some of the defensive options as well. So yeah, I think you should give him the summer, but it's not been the most flattering start. Yeah, and I would agree with Graham. I think a lot of the sort of criticism on Critchley is aided by the fact that Hibs are doing so well. But I don't think you can expect Hearts to also do as well as Hibs have done. But I think at a club like Hearts, top 6 is the bare minimum almost. So that's why Critchley's coming under a lot of pressure. And I think if Hearts were to fall further down in the league, he would definitely be on the sort of chopping block.
Yeah, I think Graham makes a point as well about Hibs, as you say, even, but it's about like Celtic and Rangers. You know, if you finish second in the league, what Rangers have this season, or maybe Dundee has done to Dundee United or Inverness, Ross County, or whatever. That's like the comparison of finishing bottom of the league because like you want to beat your local rivals.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what football's about, isn't it? Most of the time, it's about being better than your rivals. There's nothing better than beating your rivals, finishing above your rivals, doing better than your rivals in a competition. And Hearts have not done anything over Hibs this season. Pretty much, I know they got further in the Scottish Cup, but yeah, Hearts haven't got much bragging rights at the moment, and that's what needs to change. But you can't always have the bragging rights, and there's no quick fix usually. So I think if you give Critchley the summer, and they'll be in Europe as well, most likely. So no, sorry, they won't be in Europe. Sorry, so they won't have to sort of deal with the start of the season European hangover, as we call it. Whereas last season they struggled in the league because they had Europe and they were doing well in Europe for a period of time, but then it all fell apart, as we know. So yeah, I think you just need to give Critchley the benefit of the doubt, as I've said. I think you need to back him in the summer because I think some of these January signings have impressed. Yeah, and I think Hearts will bounce back next season. I do believe that.
Okay, let's move on to the last game in the bottom 6. And we spoke about the wheels coming off the bus at Dundee. I don't know what's went on at Kilmarnock this season because Derek McInnes was doing a brilliant job there last season. And yeah, I don't know what's happened to them, Ethan.
Yeah, it's been a real sort of come down for Kilmarnock. I mean, European football, they could have. I know they had a difficult tie in Europe to get into Europe with Copenhagen, but they weren't that far away from getting to group stage football, and now here they are, well and with a chance of being relegated. And that's just that. As Paul's making the point there about Hibs and dealing with the sort of balance of group stage football. I don't think Kilmarnock were even able to deal with the qualifying stages of European football because they've never really bounced back. And I think a lot of people have been thinking, well, Derek McInnes will sort it out eventually because it's Derek McInnes, but he hasn't done yet, and they'll be hiding behind the couch, the Kilmarnock fans, because they are like Ross County, like Dundee. They are very close to the drop zone, and Livingston are favourites to come up through the Championship playoff, I think. But you would imagine they would give any of those teams a good game over 2 legs. So it's worrying times for those clubs. No disrespect to the Kilmarnock or Ross County fans, but I think this might be the most boring game possible in the Scottish Premiership because the two teams have been quite boring this season, and I think the two sets of fans would probably be the first to admit that. I mean, if you look below them, Dundee, at least they score a lot of goals, and they've been on the wrong end or the right end of some ridiculous score lines. St Johnstone have been decent as of late and have tried to play what we call attractive football, but Kilmarnock have been really, really poor. And yeah, I think a lot of Kilmarnock fans would admit that. Ross County, I think they would have expected to be in and around this area. So their mission will just be to survive before the end. But for Kilmarnock, it's a real reality check, because last season they were on the brink of Europe. Well, this season even they were on the brink of European group stage football.
I think maybe just to, I know you've upset a lot of people on the show tonight, Ethan. I think it's my turn to upset a fan base. I think if you ever want a team to win the game, it'll be Ross County tomorrow. Because obviously everybody might, everybody's got different opinions, but I think they'll end up in the playoffs.
Kilmarnock,
Ross County.
Ross County,
Yeah.
I think they certainly could, and they're used to it. They've battled out the last 2 seasons. That ridiculous game against Partick Thistle, and then the less so last season against Wraith, I think it was. Memory serves me correct. So yeah, I think this one's a.
Yeah,
I know. I said that this is a boring game. I mean, it's 2 teams that are quite boring, but it's a massive game in the context of the league, because either team can move away from the drop zone. Dundee could pick up a win and drop either team in. So yeah, it's a real sort of 6-pointer, and I think all the games almost in the bottom half are 6-pointers. So that's why it's a shame that we've not got any games on the TV, because Europe's exciting, and deciding the European places is exciting, but so is relegation. I mean, nothing will be better for those clubs than avoiding relegation on the last day of the season with a last-minute winner, and we won't get to see that. We obviously will, but not live. We'll probably be watching Celtic lift the title, and yes, that needs to be on the telly as well. But I think we obviously speak about it all the time. But I think the TV deal in this country needs to be a lot better.
Yeah, no, because it's a bit disappointing. I haven't saw the TV game for the last weekend of the season, but I would imagine that the Celtic game's the only one on Sky, just because they'll be lifting the league. It's so disappointing. But again, Scotland plays setting fiddle to things like that. But okay, let's jump into the championship then. Big game tonight at Fairhill. Ethan, I'm not going to tell you who my first team is, right? Because obviously you know who my first team is, right? But if I had a choice of supporting a second team, my second team would be Partick Thistle. And don't ask me why, but and I think that when you ask people that question, they don't give you an answer. Like, why do you support that team? Well, I don't know. I don't know what it's about them. I've just got a soft spot about Partick Thistle. I don't know why. But anyway, that's me rambling again. Partick Thistle against Falkirk tonight. 8:15 kickoff live on the BBC. Ayr United against Queen's Park. Dunfermline against Ardley. Hamilton against Livingston. And Raith Rovers against Morton. We'll touch upon the game tonight, Ethan. Partick Thistle against Falkirk. Can Falkirk win the title tonight? Well, that was a very surprising score last week against that was a surprising score last weekend. But what's your pick of the game, Ethan, this weekend?
I think it's got to be tonight's. It's brilliant that it's on the telly. I I don't usually get the chance to tune into many of the Friday night games, but I will be on this occasion because I think it's a real 6-pointer for both teams. I know Falkirk are 3 points clear with 2 games left. They just need one win. And okay, it won't be mathematically secured, but their goal difference is 12 more than Livingston. So you'd imagine, barring any miraculous score lines in the last couple of games, that Falkirk will win the league if they win tonight. But it's not going to be an easy game because Partick Thistle are also fighting to stay in the playoffs because they've blown the massive lead they had for 4th place, with Raith Rovers now just 3 goal difference behind them. And Partick Thistle's last 2 games are against Falkirk and Livingston, I believe. Yep, Falkirk at home and Livingston away. Yeah. So the top 2 teams, it's not who you want to be playing, needing points. Whereas Raith Rovers have got a home game against Greenock Morton and then an away match against Freefall in Queen's Park. So I think you've got to have Raith Rovers probably favourites to sneak the last playoff spot over your Partick Thistle, Michael. But if they get a win tonight, it would be massive for them going into the final game.
You're having a brilliant show tonight, Ethan. You've upset Aberdeen fans, Hibs fans, me. Who else? We've only got 5 minutes left, so it's up to you who you want to upset next. It's a game we're playing here.
Let me see who could upset. Well, another team that I think have got off the hook in the Championship. Not just Airdrie, because obviously Hamilton got the points deduction, which meant Airdrie were spared. I think Queen's Park have got off the hook massively because I think they were on a terrible run, especially after they sacked Callum Davidson. And I think they would have been heading for the relegation playoff, and I probably would have had them going down in that playoff because some of the form they had recently was absolutely terrible. They had some big losses in the league. They were obviously thrashed by Livingston in the Trust Trophy Cup final. So yeah, I think they can consider themselves quite lucky. And the other sort of, I mean, I think the relegation places in the Championship are confirmed almost. I think Airdrie will go down. Airdrie will go into the playoff, sorry. Whether they'll win that, we're yet to see. Hamilton are obviously already down. So I think the big talking points, Falkirk are Livy to win the league, and then Partick Thistle or Raith to take the last playoff spot. And obviously we've got 2 of their teams involved tonight, so it'll be a really interesting one.
I mean, Falkirk fans must be kicking themselves even because they should have had the league wrapped up a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think I've said on 3 different occasions this season, that's Falkirk won the league now, nobody's going to catch them, and then somehow teams keep catching them. I think I might have said Falkirk were going to win the league 2 months ago because I think they've been the sort of best team over the course of the season, but Livingston and Ayr have put runs together and across the season that have sort of combated that. But I think Livingston going into the playoffs, I think they'll take major confidence into it, and I think the team sitting second bottom of the Premiership will have a bit of a fear if they have to play David Martindale's Livingston.
Just touching upon the playoffs, right? Even we're a couple of weeks away from that, right? But we've spoken on the show about this before. What do you make of the Premiership playoff final day? I mean, up here we don't do anything right, but I mean, 2 legs. I mean, come on, it should be a one-off game.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, you look down in England; they make a massive spectacle out of it. And I know, okay, it's the Scottish Premiership and it's the Premier League, but people care a lot about our football in this country, as we know. We're the most the most attended attended football country in Europe per capita or something like that for attendances at matches.
I think I heard that the other week. Yeah.
So I mean, there's no reason you can't put the match at, say, Hampden or even a neutral venue, and just have a one-off game, because I'm sure if the sort of ticket prices were relative to what the clubs demand in the Championship, you get a lot of not only Falkirk and Livingston, I'm predicting, and whoever drops down from the Premiership. I'd say you get a lot of their neutral supporters just coming along to the game just to watch it, because it'd be obviously a really entertaining spectacle. Obviously down in England it's different, because the clubs playing in the playoffs are clubs supported by massive fan bases. The football's a little bit different in this country, obviously, that when you go down the leagues you've not got the sort of massive fan bases that maybe the clubs in England have, but of course they have 10 times the amount of people that we do. So but I'd really love to see it at Hampden in a one-off game. I think that would be absolutely brilliant.
Okay, so that's us over tonight. Thanks to Ethan for joining us. Thanks to Ethan for upsetting the whole of West Central Scotland, I think it is. You better get your door, Ethan. I think somebody's at the door now. I think it's Big Jimmy, the Aberdeen manager, coming down to see you. Thanks to Robbie, thanks to Regan, thanks to all your comments as well. And enjoy your weekend of football. And see you soon.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live